Okay guys, we are going to do a tutorial. So here is everything that we need. You will need two colors, or you can do matching colors, whatever you want to do. The limit is the sky. Sport weight is best. That's what I use. So if you're holding two together, you need to use a sport weight yarn. If you want to use a worsted weight, you'll only need one strand. If you want to use a DK, that's perfectly fine as well. It might be a little bit bigger because DK does tend to run a little bit thicker than a sport weight. You will need a 5mm hook. If you are using two strands of, well, anything, two strands of sport, two strands of DK, or one strand of worsted, you will need a 5mm. You will need your yarn scissors, a yarn needle, and your choice of button. I will be using a 1/2" button from my little collection here. One that matches, of course, probably the same as this one here. So let's go ahead and get started. I will say also, this takes less than 30 minutes from start to finish. I mean, if you've got some time to sit down and just crochet, this is mind numbing, so have a seat and let's crochet along. All right, so get your two strands together. Again, I am using two strands of a sport weight. I apologize if you guys can hear that. My boyfriend's working out. We have a gym across the hall. I will shut that door. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. Not too much because I tend to pull back towards myself. So we're going to start with a slip knot. And this is how I do my slip knots. Of course, if you have your own way, go ahead and do that. All right. You're going to chain 11. Originally on my first one, I did kind of do a little bit of a loose chain. It ended up being too loose, so I'm going to keep it a little bit tighter. I did chain with another hook on my last one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whoops, 10, 11. Now, you're just going to single crochet, and I do back loops. That's just how I do it. That way I have a nice finished edge to work on when I come back around for my border. So I'm going to flip it over, and on the back here, let me see if I can get this out of the way. On the back here, you can see you have these loops. So those loops are what I work into. So I'm going to start with the second loop from my hook, and I am going to single crochet into that back loop. It can be a little bit finicky to get into. Just got to work it. It'll go in. So I'm going to do that all the way across, and at the end you should have 10 single crochet. It's always fun to get in. Here we go. Working into chain is always a slow process for me, but it just gives you guys a chance to keep up without having to pause the video. That's good, right? Okay, so like I said, you should have 10 single crochet when you reach the end, And if you worked into the back loop only, you will see that you have the V's on both sides. That is why I like to do that. Mikey from the crochet crowd taught me that, and that's just what I've always done. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now what we're going to do, we are going to do another row of just single crochet, and at this point, you know, speed starts to pick up. You can kind of just fly through. Make sure you have 10 single crochet. Make sure you go into the very first stitch of every row after you chain 1. You definitely don't want to miss a stitch. That might not be very good. See, it's easy to accidentally miss, so you can just pull it loose and redo that stitch. I do find that an inline hook can make it a little more difficult to work with 2 strands, but I do not like working with the other types of hooks. Now I do like my you know, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I like my clover hook. I love my clover hook. So here we go. So 10, this is 2 rows right here, 10 across. Okay, sorry about that. I had to step away for a second. So anyways, we've got 2 rows of 10 single crochet. So we're going to chain 1, turn, and I am going to do a quick, you see, this is the very first stitch, so you have to make sure you work into that stitch. See? That's the first stitch. So let's go back across again. Well, all right, so now you have 3 full rows of single crochet. So now what we want to do is, well, hold on, let me double check. I want to make sure I've got my row count right. I'm pretty sure here. So let's just meet back at 29 rows. Okay, see you guys there. Okay, so once you finish your 29 rows, or however many you did for your cozy, if it is a different number than mine, that is fine. We're going to go ahead and fasten off. You can see I have already done so here. So you'll fasten off, and you should have 10 stitches across the row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. What we're going to do is from this side, we are going to go into the 3rd stitch. So 1, 2, 3. We want to go into that 3rd stitch, okay? Now we are going to pull our yarn through. You can join however you want, whether that's with a slip stitch or, you know, whatever your preferred method is will work fine. And we're going to chain 1 and then single crochet right back in that exact same space that you slip stitched into. So now we've got 1, we're going to work 6 across. So 1, 2, and I am working over my tail back here. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you should have 2 stitches remaining on both sides. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now what we want to do is chain 1 and go 6 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got it a little tight here. Do pardon me. 6. Okay, so now we've got 2 rows of 6, and we want a total of 7. I'm sorry. Yeah, 7 rows. 7 rows. So 1, 2. We will go ahead and do another one here on camera. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So after you have completed your total of 7 rows, we will meet back here. Okay, now that we have our 7 rows, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we've got 7 rows. We're going to chain 1, turn your work. Now what we're going to do is work in the next 2 stitches. So you'll have 2 single crochet. We'll go 1 and 2, and now we are going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I do chain tight for this because I don't want it to stretch too much. Also, I am using 1/2" buttons, so make sure you chain enough for your button to fit through, because we definitely don't want to have some sort of, you know, beautiful thing that we've made but we can't close it up. So I did 7 for 1/2" button. So now we are going to go, whoops, we lost our yarn here. So now we're going to skip 2 stitches. 1, 2, we're going to go into this stitch. Okay, so 1, and then we're going to stitch in the last one there, and 2. So there is the basic cozy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fasten off because I'm very particular about the way that my borders look. So if you want to, you can go from here, you can do a single crochet border all the way around, or you can do my border, which does involve some chaining on certain corners. Like I said, I'm really picky. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward with my corner here. I'm going to fasten off. Again, I'm not going to leave a terribly long tail. Okay, so now I will get my yarn again, and this time I am going to do a slip knot before I join because I want this to be extra secure. This is the outer edge of my cozy, and I want it to be perfect. So I don't like starting in a corner, like in the middle of the corner. A lot of, you know, patterns will have you go straight in right here and start right there to start your corner. I'm not going to do that. I don't like the way that it turns out. We are going to do it at the end of our corner here. So let me kind of zoom in so you can see what I'm up to here. So right here is our first row, right here. I'm going to go in right there. So you can see this is the actual stitch, the bottom of our stitch. I am going to go in right here into the side of the row. This is where I will start. So go ahead and get your, I almost said get your line secure. We're not working with a line here. So now it can be a little bit difficult to work in the ends of rows. I know it took me a while to get the hang of it. So I'm going to show you guys where I work into. So I've got my first one here. I'm going to work in here next, and then I'll go in here, and then I'll go here, and then I'll go here. So I will show you, of course, but I go in the end of every single row. So here, 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 and I will do that all the way across the edge. So since we have 29 rows, you should have, well, we'll see. Sometimes I end up with one less. So let's go ahead and get started here. I am going to be working over my tail. I already got my first slip knot, well, slip stitch here. So I'm going to go ahead and single crochet straight into there. I made it a little too tight there. All right, so that's number 1. Now I'm going to show you here. This is where stitch number 2 is going to go. And I do a very tight border when I'm going down the sides, because if I don't, it ends up all wavy and weird. So the next one will go here. Okay. and then here. And then we'll go here. And we're going to do this all the way up to our first corner. So here is what my side looks like so far. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue on here. I will see you guys at the first corner, which is right here. I'll meet you guys there. Okay, so here we are at the end. I am on stitch 28 for me, so I did end up doing exactly one at the end of every row. I'm happy with that. So now you're going to work in the last stitch here. You can see it is right here. So we're going to go in there, grab our yarn, and now here is what I do for the corners. I do a loose chain, and then I go back into that stitch from the top and single crochet. So I've got a single crochet, a chain one, and a single crochet. So that is how I did the corners on this, because I thought it looked the best that way. Now I am still working over my tail here. Well, my new tail, I guess you could say. So now we've got one stitch left in the row before we start going up. So go ahead and put your stitch there, and then we're going to just rotate the work sideways a little bit, and we are going to work up the side of these rows now. So I'll show you where to start. We're going to go right in here. Let me get the right here. That's where we go first. And then our next stitch will be right there. So it's just like when we worked up the side of the main body back here, okay? It's just like that. So this is number 3. Number 4, let's hope that the smoke detector doesn't go off because my boyfriend just got out of the shower. 5, 6, and our last row will be 7. All right, so here, what I chose to do, now this is up to you guys. If you want to just slip stitch in right here and end it, you can. What I did is I went ahead and chained 1. I got 2 stitches here, and I decided to go right here into my first stitch with a single crochet, and then into my second stitch with a single crochet, and then I slip stitch into that space to go ahead and join it. So now I will cut that. This tail will have to actually be weaved in though. So there is the finished edge for one side. Let me go ahead and zoom out so you can see it. And what I will do with this, I'll show you at the end, but I'll weave it down this way and then across. So I will be back in a minute and I'll show you guys how to do the next side. Okay, so to do the next side here, we are going to get our yarn, obviously. And again, since this is the outside edge, I am going to start with a slip knot, or not a slip, well yeah, I guess a slip knot. Start with a slip knot here. Okay, and here is how we join back. So we are going to slip stitch around the chain space. So as you can see, let me kind of open it up here. I'm just going into the chain space, grabbing my yarn and pulling it through. And then I want to pull it down and tighten my slip knot. So now I've got 2 ends I need to work in here, but that is fine. We can do that. So obviously we've got 2 stitches here. I kind of move this out of the way so you can see. So 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So those are the stitches that we want to work into. Now what we're going to do is go ahead, and we've already slip stitched in. We're going to chain 1, and then we are going to, don't miss this stitch because it's the most important one, slip stitch into the very first single crochet, and then we have 1 left. You're going to slip stitch, or not slip stitch, single crochet, sorry guys, and both of those single crochet, don't slip stitch, we single crochet. So now we're going to chain 1, loosely chain 1, and we're going to go back into that same stitch. Alright, and now we're going to work 7 down, counting the one we just did. So we've got 1, 2, 3, exactly like we did on the other side, guys. This is 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so now we've got our 3 on either side here. I'm sorry, 2, not 3. Our 2 and 2, 7 and 7. So now we have made it back down to our little corner here. So right here you want to make sure you don't work into this 3rd stitch of this row. I'm sorry guys, I got way off track there. The 3rd stitch here, we don't want to work into that. We are going to go straight from this side stitch we did down to that row. 1 and 2. So you should have 2, of course. All right, now we are going to do, I'm going to go ahead and trim the ends here. Oh, looks like I missed one. That's okay. I can go back and weave that in again. Alright, so we did our 2 single crochets here. Now we're going to chain 1 loosely and go into the side of that stitch. So there's our corner. Now we've got 1, this will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to work all the way down this again. I will have a total of 29, so I will meet you right before this corner is finished. Okay, so I have got 27 stitches along my edge here. So now we have 2 more here, and then we go into the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and go here with number 28, and the last one is going to go in the last row for 29. So now down here I did find that it worked better if I did 3 single crochet. So that's 1, 2, and I'm working around this tail here, and 3. So there's our corner. And now we're just going to work in every stitch across. When we get to the last stitch, we are going to finish off. So go ahead and work in every stitch across, just like so. And I will meet you at the end. Okay, so I have one final stitch on this row here. So I'm going to go ahead and work one single crochet, just like so. And now what we're going to do is we're going to finish off this corner. So we've got one single crochet. We're going to, and you can see here, this is the one I just worked into. This is where my last, or my starting stitch is, right here. So if you can see that, this is where I worked in. This is my starting stitch. Here's what I want you to do. We are going to go into the same stitch here that we started with. 1, 2. Now, the way that we complete this, it's a pretty simple, so don't chain 1. We are going to fasten off, but we're going to do an invisible join. So go ahead and leave yourself a good line, a good length of yarn, a good tail here. So we're going to do that. And now you're just going to pull this all the way through. So now you can see you've got your worked stitch here, no chain. Very important, you do not do a chain. So now we're going to thread our yarn needle with both strands. Okay, and let me go ahead and cut this so that I can kind of focus in on this pretty good for you guys and there's nothing distracting. Okay, so like I said, no chain. This is just what's remaining. Okay, I'm going to zoom in just a little. Now, here's what we're going to do. Here's your first stitch right here. First stitch for the border. You are going to go underneath the loops like so. Pull it through. Okay, so you can see here, and we only put 2 single crochets in here. I need you to remember that. That's very important, because if we were to do a third, this would get bunched up and it wouldn't look right. So now here's the back of the stitch where I'm coming out with my yarn, as you can see. Now, what we're going to do, your first stitch, or your last stitch right here, where this yarn comes from, if you can't find it, just give it a little tug. You'll be able to see it. So we are going to go back into that stitch and come out the back. So we're going to go through the back loop only. Let me show you from this angle. Back loop only of your last stitch. Now you're going to pull on it pretty good, and that's going to look like a third stitch. So now you've got your finished corner. So go ahead and weave that in. Make sure it stays nice and tight. Now this is kind of hard for me to grab because I don't have very strong fingers. So here's what I do. I push it, the butt of the needle, down. Oh, come on. You guys, the struggle is real. This is a constant struggle for me. My hook is all over the place too. That doesn't help. Okay. Come on. Oh, there we go. It's starting to go. Okay. And it doesn't help. This yarn specifically is fuzzy. It's kind of, I mean, it's not exactly a roving, but here you can see I've tightened this loop. This is my invisible join right here. That's it. So now I have run my yarn all the way down the side here. I am going to make it a little bit tighter because I got kind of a bulge. So let's fix that. Alright, now that will work out that little bulge. As you can see, you can't see the bulge on this one anymore. So now go ahead and weave in all your tails I'll meet you back in a minute to sew the button on. Okay, so let's go ahead and sew this button on. This is really bothering me. So I did realize something. I should have only had you put one in here. So that is my mistake. You are more than welcome to undo it and fix it. I know that it will hide itself once it's been used. So I'm not too concerned about it on mine. So let's go ahead and get our button on. So you can see I've got a very short length of yarn here. I've got both colors, I've got my button. My button has teeny weeny little holes. And my yarn needle doesn't really fit very happily. So what I did is I actually went ahead and did this in the holes. And it makes it a lot easier for everything to go through. So go ahead and thread your yarn needle with both colors. And the way that we're doing this, it will be safer to have two colors as opposed to just one. You can do just one, but the way that I tie these in the back, it's helpful to have two. Okay, so what we need to do is we have to count up 5 rows. So this was our beginning row. This is row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is where we want to go. So find that middle stitch, and I'm just kind of eyeballing here. I'm pretty sure this is the middle though. I want to come up right there. Now I'm going to take my button, and you can use, of course, a 4 hole button. That's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. This is stuck and I don't know why. There it goes. Okay, so now I'm going to go back through, and you can see right here is where my yarn's coming out. So I'm just going to go on the other side of that stitch, grab a little bit of threads there. I'm going to go ahead and work it through. Now from the front, you got a nice centered button. Well, you got a nice centered button. Okay, let's go ahead and flip it over. And here is how I do this. Separate your strands. I'm about to sneeze. Sorry guys. So sorry. Okay, so you got your strands. Now here's what I want you to do. Take the gray on the right and the pink on the left. Go ahead and tie like you're gonna tie shoes. Just do the first, I don't even know, over under. Okay, leave it kind of loose so we don't mess it up. Now I'll do that with the other two. All right, and now go ahead and pull them all. Now that will tighten it down pretty good. So go ahead now, take your pink, well, in my case, it's pink and green. Do another really tight knot there. Remember, just go over once. So, you know, your regular little twisty-do, make it tight. Okay, now we're gonna do it one more time, but this time we're going to actually double knot. This, guys, will completely avoid you having to tie in any knots whatsoever. Now, I do recommend going behind with some sort of fabric glue, just to be on the safe side. And I've got some right over here, which I actually have to grab. So now I've double knotted both. Let me get my glue. I just realized the fan was on and the door was open. Sorry guys, that may have been a little loud. So I've got my glue here, and probably need to go ahead and peel off from the last time I used it. Let me get my needle in here. I'm really bad about cleaning this off after using it, so I always have to do this. This is an every time thing for me. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut these as close to the knot as you can. Now remember, this will be the back side. Nobody's gonna see it, so nobody's gonna know that you got a yarn knot back here. Okay, so now we've got our knot. I'm just gonna take a little dab of glue. If it comes out, I don't know. Oh, it's still plugged. Hold on. My apologies, guys. This is real life, though. That's what my channel's all about. Alright, that should be decent enough to get some glue out. So there's that, and I usually just kind of pat it in so it goes everywhere I want it to, and then wipe my finger on a napkin or a piece of paper next to me. So if you do use the liquid stitch, this right here, you only have to let it dry for about 15 to 20 minutes before it's dry to touch. So here is our finished little guy. And the side with our button. So that's it. Now you just, pick your mug of choice. Oh, I got some. Wrap it around, slap that button on, and there you go. And like I said, if you wanted to make this for a wine glass, this size, what we did, still is perfect for that. So you can still do, let's see, 29 plus 7, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, so 36. 36 total rows. And then your fasten row. You can do that if you want to do just a wine glass. So yeah, that is it. Short little disclaimer here. This will be a little slippery on your mug. Hold it with 2 hands. Don't drop it. You will get burnt, if you got hot coffee or hot tea, so be very careful. I think I'm going to try putting, I gotta find it. I've lost my hot glue gun. I don't know where it is. I may go buy another one. But I'm thinking some hot glue stripes, some ziggy-zag hot glues will help kind of hold it in place a little bit better. So I will try that, and I'll let you guys know if it works. But for now, this is all I've got. I am no professional designer by any means. This is just kind of something I threw together, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. A few of you even asked if I would make a tutorial for it, so this is my tutorial. And this is completely finished here. This is the first one that I did, and after it's been stretched onto a mug, it will lay much flatter. The corners will look much nicer, and it will just be flatter in general. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments.